I spent the past few months using a standalone digital music player, and in the current state of the world that is being taken over with streaming services, algorithm, and artificially generated music, would this be the solution to that? You might have been in this position. You just wanted to listen to your favorite indie rock band's newest album, or you want to listen to an older album that got a remaster that changes everything you liked about the original. Then you'll pull up Spotify or Apple Music only to discover that the band had their music pulled entirely from the service, and in its place is an AI-generated cover made by somebody on their laptop in a basement who is taking money from actual musicians, pouring their hearts into their craft. Meanwhile, actual record labels are now starting to partner up with AI platforms to continue spewing out more of this garbage into our algorithms when all we just want to do is listen to some 𝘵𝘆𝘳𝘰𝘯𝘕 or some 𝘵𝘩𝘰𝘶𝘵. And it doesn't help that on top of all of this, musicians are getting paid even worse than before because now they're having to fight with f***ing robots in order to make a living. So at this point, I was almost completely done with wanting to use streaming for my music choice. I wanted my own way of listening to music. I wanted my own preferred way of finding new music, and in order to be able to engage with musicians better. I have spoken frequently about physical media in the past, and while I still love physical media and I still love my CD collection, it would be a little bit finicky to carry around a bunch of cases with me, and taking them out of the case into a little packet would be very convoluted. So I figured the best thing I would do would be to get myself a standalone music player. And on top of that, I wanted one that would be very affordable in order to make this actually practical. And this is what I came up with. Everybody, meet the Y1, an audio player from Innioasis that just happens to check every box I needed for a music player while still fitting under the $60 mark. USB-C for charging and transferring, a headphone jack and Bluetooth for audio output, and expandable storage. Sort of. I'll get to that one in a minute. Speaking of the headphone jack, the player did come with pre-packaged dirty buds right out of the box, and while I sadly am not in the same league of any audiophile, I can report back on the earbuds by telling you that they're actually not that bad. I was pleasantly surprised with the amount of bass that they offered, and I found the mid and high frequencies to be passable. If you don't have any earbuds already, these aren't that bad of an option, but I would recommend that you pick up a set of in-ear monitors down the line. They'll cost you like $20 or $30 on Amazon. Yeah, I know. They're just one of the only options available. Just shut up. Now, to be clear, you wouldn't think nothing of this player if you saw it on Amazon, especially with the images that they show off, but it had kind of gotten a dark horse reputation that has captivated a lot of people, so much so that there's even a subreddit dedicated to people using this player, asking questions, modding it, so on and so forth. And to be clear, it is still a very cheap player, as the body and the wheel are made out of plastic, the SD card inside the machine is cheap, but make no mistake, this player has a lot going on under that plastic case. I chose this player in particular because not only is it very similar to that one iPod model that everybody likes, and that one's not out of the picture either because people are still modding and using that one to this day, but also because it's very affordable. That affordability could be a gateway for people to kind of test the waters before they spend the big bucks on a better music player. And honestly, this might be one of the only players that you might even need. Who knows? As I mentioned before, this player is made almost entirely out of plastic, but while it may come off as rather flimsy, it's actually pretty sturdy with what it was built with. I was expecting the touch wheel to be an infuriating experience, but it's pretty okay. It could be a lot better, but it also could be a lot worse. And what I was not expecting from this player was that it even had haptic feedback whenever you scroll through the system. Like whenever you scroll the wheel, it actually vibrates along with it. That was a very delightful surprise for the price tag. But what might be a sour thing to sacrifice with this budget is the battery capacity, as the player is only bundled with a 1250 milliamp battery. I know that sounds horrible, especially compared to the 5,000 to 6,000 milliamp batteries that comes with modern phones, but the player does a really decent job with its battery usage, and it can last about 20 to 30 hours of continuous playback.
It's an epic meditation on intangibility. At the same time, it deepens and enriches meaning.
And when it comes to storage, you have the option between a 64GB and a 128GB model, but the most common one I've seen all over is the 128GB model. A rather generous amount of space for the price, and that's plenty of space for records too. Like, I've already got well over 80 albums on here, and that's using up about half of the storage so far. And these are all FLAC files too, which takes up so much more space compared to MP3. So if you're not that serious about listening to music, you should potentially be able to fit even more albums on here. It should be no noted that the microSD card that comes bundled with the player is a rather cheap one. So if you are worried about stability, or if you want to expand the storage, I would highly recommend that you open up the device and replace that microSD card with a new one, preferably something from SanDisk. But anyway, this right here is one of the many benefits that you get when getting yourself a music player. You could do whatever the you want on this. This isn't supposed to be a jab at smartphones, I'm not trying to do that here, but there's only so much that you can mod considering some of the security issues, only exceptions being the launchers you can add on an Android phone. But with this, you can mod stuff beyond the operating system. Do you want more storage? Sure, just pry open the casing and swap the microSD card with a larger one, or grab some adapter for the iPods. Want a bigger battery? Fantastic! There's a few people that have modded theirs to include a 6,000 mAh battery that can potentially last you days on a charge. Now, you might be realizing as you're watching this footage, hey, that's not the UI that this comes with. What are you doing here? And you are absolutely correct, because what I have here is actually better. Well, better in a lot of ways for me, honestly. Now, much like a mini music player before it, including the iPod, the Y1 is one of many players that you can install Rockbox onto, which is an open source alternative to the stock firmware that would come packaged with your preferred music player. Because the Y1 is based on Android, it is a bit different to get Rockbox on here, but thankfully the community had gotten together to make one of the most incredible pieces of software you could ever use for a device, the Innioasis Updater. It's the easiest way to not only get Rockbox onto your device, but also be able to flash the original software on it too if you want to opt out of it. And it's as simple as plugging in the USB and then rebooting the player to start the installation. Rockbox is actually flashed on top of the stock software, so if you wanted, you could be able to swap between the two on the spot. And for the icing on the cake, it's also endorsed and in collaboration with Innioasis themselves. Absolutely phenomenal work to everyone involved in the making of this tool, because it has been very versatile for so many users, including myself. Now, for the rest of this video, it will be related to the Rockbox software, as I believe that's going to be the thing that most people are wanting to go for with all the tools and conveniences that come with it. The first convenience, of course, being customization. To continue with my previous statement, adding your own flair on these media players is actually quite intuitive, and on Rockbox's website, they offer a platform for people to upload their own skins that they made, with you being able to choose what screen resolution your device uses for the most compatibility. For the Y1's case, the themes for the 6th generation iPod can work with it, and the possibilities are almost endless. On screen right now are themes that I currently have on my player that I could switch to at will, and they offer quite the variety depending on what I'm in the mood for. Whatever vibe you're thinking of, there's most likely already a theme made for that. But now when it comes to actually listening to music, Rockbox covers a wide array of codecs, but the one that I know a lot of you are going to go for are either MP3, WAV, or FLAC. It's all up to preference on what you want, but if you're not that extreme with the audio stuff, getting a decent quality MP3 is going to do more than enough. There's also a good chance that you're just going to be playing the albums that you have extracted from your CD collection, so you'll have access to that anywhere you go. And as you're listening to your records, make note of how it sounds when they go from one track to the other. That right there is a gapless transition. I'm pretty geeky about this subject, but I do think if you're going to be listening to a record, and especially a live album, having gapless playback is a necessity. And I think it can help immerse the listening experience even more beyond the individual tracks. Not even VLC supports it, and I'm still confused about that. But if you want, you could crossfade between songs like what you could do on streaming services. Nice. If you're wanting to pause your album, you can leave a bookmark on the exact spot you currently are on in a given song, and then come back to it at your own leisure. That's also pretty handy if you're wanting to review the album and mark down certain talking points between songs. There's also a couple of other UI tweaks that you could do. You could change how the vibration motor works when you scroll the wheel, you can add a little fade when you want to pause music, and even a built-in speed adjuster to slow down or speed up your songs. Now that's some 2009 shit right there, and I'm all for it. But okay, I've talked plenty about all the things that this player is able to do. What about actually using the damn thing? What is it like actually using a standalone music player or an iPod or whatever in the current age where streaming services are taking over and there's hundreds of different albums for you to listen to over there instead of having to constantly put them all into this? Well, It's actually kind of pleasant. Now, to be clear, I've mainly just been using this player on and off again. I haven't actually been able to use it all the time. Whenever I'm in the car, I like to use Apple and YouTube Music, and that's mainly because I have a family plan, so that's why I have access to them, but also because I like to use my phone's assistant to be able to change whatever music I'm listening to whenever I'm on the go. I know that's me being spoiled to convenience, but I like to be in a good mood whenever I'm on my commute, alright? But let me be clear, I have taken this thing with me whenever I'm on the go, and I have been able to connect it with the same Bluetooth system that I use for my phone, and I've had quite the blast with it. I really like it. One of the first albums I added onto this player was the fucking iCarly soundtrack. Of course I had to get that one. It's for the vibes, man. Come on. But there's some good shit on here. There's Miranda Cosgrove's Stay My Baby and About You Now, and there's also some of the non-show songs that are on the soundtrack, including Dance Floor Anthem by Good Charlotte. First time I've listened to that song, by the way. Some other albums that I got to listen to on this player were In the End It Always Does by Japanese House. Yes, you could tell I'm a Mike the Snare fan. I also listened to Philosophy of the World by the Shags, and also The New Sound by 𝘵𝘰𝘰𝘯𝘬𝘺𝘵𝘰𝘰𝘯𝘬. But actually getting to use this player was a rather calming experience for me. Just getting to sit down, put my earbuds in, and have a rather invested listening session that I would have not got to do otherwise for an album like this. And also that bookmark feature really does come in handy, so I could just come back to it anytime I wanted to. I got to use it a couple times for the 𝘵𝘰𝘰𝘯𝘬𝘺 album, and I had to use it a plenty of times for the Shags album. If you know, you know.
Oh, the rich people want what the poor people got, and the poor people want what the rich people got.
Now, of course, this experiment didn't come without downsides. For one thing, I did feel a little bit isolated, and yes, it's because the thing is offline, but also because with streaming, you're not exactly tapped into the same circuit of music as everyone else if you're just listening to it on your own device. That might be a good thing to some, but for people like me who likes to know that there are a lot of other people listening to music that I am, it's rather reassuring to know that I am using the same platform as millions of other people, and if I wanted to share a record that I was invested in, for example, if I wanted to share it with my girlfriend who has the same streaming service as I do, I would just grab a shareable URL and share it with them via messages or Discord or whatever. The only other equivalent I got to do similar to that on this player was just by taking a photograph of my screen with the song on it and then just send it to them that way. But if you are on that side of the music community where you have a Last.fm account, you should know this thing will support it as long as you have Rockbox. Just put your account stuff onto there, and then it'll actually continue to log the songs that you're playing onto there, and then once you get back online, it'll pop that stuff over to your Last.fm account, so you have that option as well. And I was pretty reliant on my phone's assistant whenever I was in the car. Sure, it is nice to have that control and convenience, but it can also be a pretty destructive habit because I could just change songs in the middle of them being played if I'm in the mood for it, and that's not a great habit to get into if you're really wanting to sit down and listen to some music. Like, why should my friends send me a playlist when I'm just gonna be skimming through them, you know? And speaking of the playlists, I know, say what you want about having access to literally every single piece of recorded music ever on streaming services, but being able to pull any song that you want from every person or album or anything, just being able to pull all of that and put them onto a playlist is actually really nice. Like for me, I always kind of found it weird to have a bunch of little, what I call orphan songs, like songs that are part of an album, but you don't have the album, it's just that song. Maybe it's not even a single, who knows? Just having that just to put them onto a playlist is kind of weird to me. I don't know, I always found it weird to have just a bunch of loose songs on a folder like that if they are not connected to an album. My views on that might change over time, but I don't know, it's just kind of weird to me. But now that I went through the downsides of using this player, what were some of the benefits? I know some of you are probably wanting to get one of these in order to take your break away from streaming or your phone or whatever, but I wanted to take a different approach. Contrary to the popular belief of everyone Lately, I kind of find the whole no phone talk to be kind of corny and even impractical. Like, I understand it, I know it's nice to be able to take time off of your phone, but I do think there should be a healthy way of balancing what you are using and what you're trying to live for. So if I'm not using it to get away from my phone, what am I going to use this thing for? Well, there's a couple of reasons why you want to use one of these. 5 of them to be exact. Number 1. It's separate from my phone. I know, that's a bit ironic considering what I said earlier, but I'm not gonna say, ugh, phone bad. No. What I mean is that because this is a separate single-purpose device, that means it has its own battery and its own storage, meaning I no longer have to worry about whatever I'm doing on my phone whenever I want to listen to an album, meaning I'll then have to worry about preserving the battery whenever I want to talk to people, and I can load up as many songs as this device can handle without having to juggle the storage on my phone between the music and photos and apps and so on. Number 2. Your device, your way. This is already something that I just boasted about earlier in this video, so I'm not going to say all of it again, but yeah, you could pretty much do whatever you want. Replace the storage with a new one, replace the battery with a new one, replace the case if you wanted to, replace the software. You can customize and do so much with your device, and on top of that, you could put whatever audio files you want onto it and listen to it however way you want. Number 3. This thing is offline all the time. Because all of your music is just individual files being played back, the player doesn't require any sort of internet connection whatsoever. And this is fantastic because there are plenty of people, not just in the US, but also around the world that may not have the best sort of internet connection to be able to play their music off of something like Spotify, meaning you'd be better off playing an MP3 file locally and have better fidelity than that of streaming. My grandparents, for example, live in a city where cellular data is minimal, and for them, Wi-Fi is non-existent. So having this player on hand, I could play whatever music I want that's loaded onto it and not have to worry about dropouts or lowering in quality because, well, they're just audio files. Number 4. Remasters, re-releases, and removals. One of the biggest complaints about modern streaming services is that they have the ability to modify or pull away whatever albums that you're currently listening to at a given moment without any warning at all. And while you might believe that you might be safe given that you're listening to the top artists that are currently available, but who knows, maybe 5 years down the line they can have their stuff pulled without any warning at all. One of my favorite albums that I listened to in the past 4 years was an album called 𝘗𝘗𝘳 by 𝘗𝘕head. 𝘗𝘕head had been making music for a few years at that point, and he has done plenty of work with another group called MC Virgins, and if the name doesn't sound familiar to you, but you are a fan of the 𝘵𝘗𝘰𝘗𝘕 channel, then you might be familiar with yeah, it's this guy. He makes some good fucking music. But anyway, not too long after the album came out, 𝘗𝘗𝘳 got pulled from streaming services, and I still question why it got pulled to this day. Thankfully, I was able to find a copy of it on Qobuz, and it is available on YouTube, so I have been able to preserve it again for my own listening experience. Which I sadly cannot say for another artist I've listened to named 𝘵𝘩𝘳𝘳𝘁. If the name doesn't sound familiar to you, you might be familiar with their song Nostalgia, which is just a Big Crush version of the song Lease by Takashi Abo. Anyway, they produced a couple more albums after that, and one of my personal favorites from them is an instrumental album called Mr. Diddle. The only way that I can describe the music that was on this album was basically Wolf/Goblin era Tyler the Creator music. And about a year after I had listened to that album, all of their albums got pulled off of streaming, and I can't find another copy of it anywhere. I only found the album artwork. So if anybody has a copy of that album, please let me know. I really want to listen to it again. But even if you do have the albums that you do want to listen to on streaming, there's a good chance that it's not the best version of that album available anywhere. Artists and record labels are able to put whatever remaster that they want onto an album and be able to tweak it however they want. The most recent example I could think of was when Kanye West had made a deluxe version of Donda, which replaced the original and modified the track list and the mixing. The new remaster of Queen's album had also gotten some controversy for some auto-tuning that was going on Freddie's vocals. Yes, they auto-tuned Freddie Mercury. And the most recent remasters from Michael Jackson's Dangerous album was also very disappointing. So with this music player, I can be able to specify whatever master of the album that I want to listen to at a given time. Shout out to all the Metallica fans that had to listen to the Guitar Hero version of Death Magnetic. You have much respect from me, for real, for real. In fact, some of my favorite remasters are not even official remasters at all. One of my favorite YouTube channels is a channel named Queen Live Rarities, or QLR for short. Starting in 2020, 2024, they had remastered and restored all 15 of Queen's studio albums, essentially trying to match it similar to what we had on the vinyl with all of the really great dynamics that we have of digital. And since they wrapped up all of Queen's albums, they have been working on doing remaster projects for all of Michael Jackson's albums. For context, the current versions of all of Michael's albums that are available on streaming have been hit with a lot of compression and a lot of bass. I don't know why the estate did this, but a lot of MJ songs have sounded so much more bassy nowadays, like especially the stuff from the Invincible era. I don't know why they cranked the out of that low end, but it sounds rough. And as I mentioned before, the newest remaster that they had done of Dangerous was reported to be pretty disappointing, but QLR's restorations fix a lot of those problems, and they have been my preferred way to listen to MJ albums. The last ones that they need to work on are Bad in History, and I cannot wait for those. Those are gonna sound amazing. But yeah, I have those on my player at the moment, and I think they are the only versions that I'm gonna have on this player. But of course, I'm gonna keep all my official MJ copies because I love them from the bottom of my heart. And finally, number 5, it is entirely you. Sure, if you have a Spotify account, you'll have a detailed list of all the songs that you listen to. And same goes for Apple Music, or Qobuz, or Tidal, or any of those other streaming services. But with players like these, you put whatever music you want to listen to on here. So while you may have an entire pool of music that you can listen to on your hands, you get to pick out whatever music you want on players like these. So no other player is going to be the same. And that includes the themes and all the customization and accessories and whatever. Your player is uniquely you, and no other streaming service account or subscription could do that beyond any stretch of the imagination. Hell, not even shuffling is uniquely you anymore on streaming services, as it is now tailor designed to be, well, tailor designed. And ironically, despite it being offline, there is now so much more personality and community given to these players than any other streaming service platform I've ever seen in my life. I like to go online and see how other people are living their lives with this player, seeing what they're doing with it, seeing what albums they listen to. It is so much more personal than any other screenshot of a streaming service that I could think of. I still remember when I showed my friend that I was listening to that Good Charlotte song and telling her that it was the first Good Charlotte song I've listened to, and she was like, "No f***ing way, are you serious?" I wouldn't have had that interaction otherwise. And hell, the version of the iCarly soundtrack that you could find on streaming doesn't even have the Girlfriend remix from Avril Lavigne. So yeah, in this current day and age where not only do we have smartphones, but also this weird monotone mindset that everybody has when it comes to their devices, it should be important for us to preserve the idea of our ideas, to preserve us being ourselves. And I think having a player like this might be a step in a good direction. And it doesn't even have to be this player in particular. You could choose whatever player you want out on the market right now. So whatever you do, whoever you are, however you are living, just try your best to preserve that wonderful concept of being yourself, because we're starting to lose that every day. And I hope that these changes do enough to prevent that.